So just before we get started with the webinar today, just a message to everybody out there. So if you have any questions through the webinar today for any of the panelists or any of the speakers at all today through the webinar, please feel free to share those in the chat box. Nabila, I believe it's the standard format for the chat box here. So people can share messages in there, can be either directly to a panelist or in the group. And what we'll do is we will ask those questions in the Q&A session towards the end. Please feel free to speak up in the Q&A session at the end, or if you'd like to share your message via the chat box, we will read those out for you. Okay, so we'll do that through the webinar today. So I think we're a couple of minutes past now, so I think we can start to proceed with the webinar. So welcome everybody to the Future of Healthcare. My name's James. I'm the Regional Sales Director for Empresaria. I'll be coordinating and moderating the meeting today. We've got a great panel for you today as well. And also will be introduction coming up shortly from Miss Kitty, who heads up our healthcare in the region. Next slide, please, Nabila. So I'll just give you a quick run through of the webinar. So we'll have the introduction from Kitty shortly. And then what we'll do is we'll go through each of the questions individually. We'll read those out. The panelists will be able to go through and give their insight and opinions on those questions. We've got a few stats for you as well and some information that we'll share with you that we're seeing out there in the healthcare industry at the moment. And then we'll open up the floor to everybody to be able to ask those questions for any of the panelists towards the end. But what I will do now is hand you over to Miss Kitty Robertson for their introduction. Over to you, Kitty.
Hi, good morning. Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody. As James mentioned, I'm Kitty Robertson, Regional Head of the Health Division of Monroe Consulting. So I want to start by saying a huge thank you, first of all, to all of our guest speakers and the Monroe team who've made today's webinar happen. The guest speakers will be introducing themselves very shortly. And thank you to all of you who are taking time out to join us today too. To introduce myself, I have over 17 years of recruitment experience, and most of that's been in the healthcare industry across Europe and for the last 5 years across Southeast Asia, based in Bangkok. We've got very, very heavy rains at the moment, so if we dip out, that's why. Along with my highly talented team of colleagues across the region in Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia and Malaysia, all bringing a wealth of experience with our services of recruitment and many other solutions. Health is one of the 5 divisions of Monroe, where we recruit management to executive level roles across a variety of disciplines, including technical, commercial, head office positions, generalists, specialists, anything you can think of. My contact details are at the end of the presentation in case you wish to contact us, either as a candidate or require support as a client. And there's time, as James mentioned, at the end for questions either of our wonderful speakers or of the Monroe team. So on that, I shall hand back over to James.
Perfect. Thanks, Kitty. So I will hand over shortly to the panel to be able to introduce themselves. So we'll start off with Anjie. Is Anjie in the room now, Kitty? I know there was some trouble signing in. Yes, hi, Anjie. Are you out there?
Oh, I think she's on mute. So
Anjie, you're on mute.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go. There you are. Yes. Over to you, Anjie.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Anjie Prachaseri. I'm the CEO for Southeast Asia of Cryoviva. This is a stem cell banking and proliferation company. In addition to that, we also have activities in the area of treatment. We also have hospitals for baby and child care. And my experience extends from healthcare through to finance and manufacturing over the years, but in the space of healthcare today, I think we're in a very exciting space, and I'm happy to be able to share my thoughts with you today.
Thanks, Anjie. Yeah, stem cell, super interesting. Could be good for my back injuries.
Yes, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to talk about that. Thanks, Anjie. Djalu, over to you.
Hi, hello. My name is Djalu. Yeah, I'm working now for medical device industry, working for Dräger Indonesia. My position is at HR, and I've been in HR for most 23 years. But mostly, I work for the engineering and manufacturing industry. But then in 2019, I joined Dräger, which really new, but it's very interesting industry for me. And I really looking for new discussion today. And you can also can contact me in my LinkedIn in Supartopo Djaluputro in the professional business LinkedIn. Yeah, I think that's all.
Perfect. Thanks, Djalu. Yeah, looking forward to your input in the meeting today. Anne, I can see you out there. How are you?
Okay, I'm good. Thank you, James. So good evening and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anne Le, and I work for clinical research for MSD Vietnam. And before that, I worked here for more than 6 years. And before that, I worked in IQVIA. So my pleasure today to join this discussion with you guys and also share something from my side. So nice, nice to be here, and feel free to contact me in LinkedIn, the same name I'm stated here. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Anne. Looking forward to your input. And last but not least, Ian, are you out there?
Yes, James. Hi, everybody. My name is Ian. I've been working for the last 3 decades, half of which with the FMCG industry with companies like Colgate, Palmolive, and Coca-Cola. The latter half with pharmaceutical companies like GSK, Bundi Pharma, and currently now with Sanofi Consumer Healthcare in the Philippines as the sales director. We have a lot of market-leading brands in the country today. I'm also the founder and managing consultant of IMS Learning and Consulting, very active on LinkedIn, so would love to connect with you there. And just wanted to thank Monroe for inviting me for this session today.
You're very welcome in. Thank you very much to all of the panelists. So what we'll do now is we'll just give you guys a bit of an introduction in terms of some of the statistics leading into our first round of questions that we'd like to share with you. So if you could just go to the next slide for me, Nabila. So what we're looking here is, certainly in terms of how consumers are engaging through the pandemic, how that has affected the market in terms of global wellness. You can see some of the numbers there in terms of the value of the market now at 4.75 trillion with a T. So massive amounts of growth. And what we're seeing is a lot of people out there who, especially in more developing countries where we're based, having a huge interest now in health, wellness, lifestyle changes, based on the recent circumstances that we've all been living through. I think when it comes to looking at how we monitor our health, there's been big changes in that as well. Even my mum, 75 years old, wears a Fitbit, tracks her steps every day. And we're seeing that across the countries that we work in, where people want to be aware of their health on a day-to-day basis. And technology has been a great way to do that. And obviously companies as well jumping onto that wellness bandwagon to attract people to their businesses as well. We've seen 75% of employers and even 33% of smaller companies which are running wellness programs, which can be anything to wellness days, to mental health days, to exercise programs, and everything in between. And I think one of the things that we can all relate to is feeling anxious, feeling stressed, feeling nervous. There's been lots of health implications that have come with the pandemic related to things that we never really thought about before, such as being alone, being secluded from companies, from teams, working independently, how to work from home. And a lot of that has caused this mental health struggle. And we see it especially in our younger generations, Gen Zs, You know, we've had firsthand experience of working with new recruiters coming into the industry. And I'm sure experts out there listening now have experienced the same thing, where you're hiring people that you've never met, who are working in teams they've never interacted with in any way apart from on a Zoom call. And it's become the new normal for some of those people. So how do we fix that? How do we deal with that? Well, let's jump into our first question for the panel. So Nabila, if you could just move through. So here's our first question. So how has consumers' behavior towards wellness shifted during the pandemic? And what will this post-pandemic normal look like for the healthcare industry? So this is our first question. So I'll put this over to the panel. So in no particular order, who would like to come forward on this question?
I can take the first shot here, James, if that's fine with everybody.
Ian, fantastic. Over to you, Ian.
Yeah, so from my perspective, I'll mention two things. One is product, and next is people, right? So in terms of product, I think what we've learned as a whole during the last 2 years is our health is very important, right? And what I see happening now, and it's currently happening, and perhaps it's going to accelerate further in the future, is for companies to come up with more preventive medicine versus curative. Of course, curative medicines will still be there and still be researched, but a lot of focus has now gone to vitamins, for instance, even probiotics, making sure that we are ready for whatever illnesses there is, not just during this pandemic, right? And then secondly, I think in terms of people and in terms of working, Sanofi has started even prior to the pandemic. We were already doing some hybrid work, and I think that's going to continue for the healthcare industry in general. And it really makes sense, for instance, for a country like the Philippines, where traffic is very bad, one of the worst in the world. Fuel prices are now sky high. So I think it really makes sense in terms of engaging with our HCPs, for instance, and even our trade customers, in terms of working from home, working outside the office, or a mixture of it. So I think moving forward, that's going to be what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen in the healthcare industry.
Thanks, Ian. Yeah, I fully agree. I think on terms of the preventative side of things, looking at the type of advice we get out there, taking vitamin D, taking magnesium, taking different, having a healthier lifestyle, great way to build your immune system. Yeah, I really agree with that. Some fantastic points there. Thanks, Ian. Any of the other panelists would like to come in on question number one?
Sure, I'll jump in.
Hey, Anjie.
Yeah, hi. Okay, so in my opinion, I think that we have to look at it in two different ways in terms of how consumer behavior has changed, at least from the perspective where I've worked with people. I think the coronavirus has brought about a lot of concern in terms of what people can do in terms of preemptive health. Okay, so yes, the vitamins are there. They're trying to take care of themselves. There's a lot more focus on what disease they could develop, which is coming through at much more affordable rates thanks to genetic testing. But at the same time, there's one more area that we need to look at, is the strain in the healthcare system almost worldwide as a result of COVID. People have been forced to take care of themselves because a lot of surgeries have been delayed. Doctors' appointments have been delayed. There's a rising staff turnover. There's so much competition to get qualified health workers into the system. So in a way, people are trying to take care of their health, but because there's so much information out there and a lot more wrong rather than right, I think we also need to take care and look at the effects of putting health in personal hands without proper information. So there's a lot of people who are coming out of this and saying, I went ahead and I tried to take care of myself. I've been taking certain vitamins, I've been taking certain medications, and lo and behold, they don't realize the deep problems they have in their health that are probably trying to crop up now. And as a result of what they've done to take care of their health, they have a slew of other problems to take care of. Secondly, that I see is that there's a fear within those people that we're talking to, at least from the consumer base that we look at, in terms of what's ahead, how are we going to take care of ourselves if there's another pandemic and we don't have access to healthcare the way we used to. There's even talk about what we have today is monkeypox, and some people starting to question as to whether this was another scientific experiment. So I think what we also need to look at is consumer behavior that is based on the changes that are happening in the world, thanks to technology, thanks to the forced changes that came about because we didn't have ready access to healthcare because of the pandemic. And the other side is the fear that's built up. Okay, so how to balance that and actually give consumers or our customer base the appropriate care and the appropriate knowledge for them to go forward in a proper manner.
Thanks, Anjie. Yeah, that's interesting to hear that people looking after their health in one way can affect their health in another. So you need to dig into it and have the full picture. Yeah, a lot of people try and diagnose and look after themselves, and that access to doctors, and certainly in, you know, I would argue Jakarta's up there with the Philippines in terms of traffic and that ability to be able to use these new online platforms to speak to medical professionals, to get a second opinion, and to get the correct advice is very, very important. And yet the strain on the healthcare as well is another fantastic point. I think, you know, my family across the UK have seen that with the NHS, and the amount of strain and pressure that they were put under with long hours, massive amounts of people coming in. And we've all seen the pictures of overflowing hospitals in Southeast Asia. So how businesses now deal with that, and how they, you know, look at, hopefully the monkeypox is not the next pandemic straight away, but how do we prepare for the next one? Yeah, fantastic points there. Thanks a lot, Anjie.
And Jim, I can add. Yes, I can add a little bit about the consumer behavior and the action. Yes, because somehow like after the pandemic, we also have a surveys from the market, and we can realize that somehow like in the past, the doctor really something, no problem to happy to interact with the medical representative, but now somehow after the COVID, there's something because of maybe long time social distancing and the mask wearing. So now the survey show that instead of the medrep for top one for the interact with the endeavory, the scientific or the medical information, product information, now the doctor want to receive from the message from the email, and then from that they also don't want to go to maybe travel somewhere to attend a lot of conference or scientific, and instead of that they want to prefer at home and can receive that or join online or virtual meeting team. So during the pandemic we had no choice because we just have a need to speed up and how to something like still ensure the operation and the manage the business run. And that's why we move a lot of, we enhance a lot of technology. Yeah, so this is something more and more the access with the technology and in the healthcare, and especially for all our customers in this case include both the doctor and the patient as well, or even the healthy subjects, because we can see that the chain of the enhanced technology application in the healthcare.
Yeah, great points. I think, you know, definitely one thing that the pandemic has created is a massive amount of data. And so what do we do with that data? How do we analyze that data? How do we use that to, you know, to solve issues that we missed this time, or to make ourselves better at treating the next one? And also with that massive amount of information you see in the news is this proliferation of fake news. Or what do we need? You know, you hear about if you wear this necklace, then, you know, it will keep COVID away, or this mask or that mask. And there's so much information out there, trying to figure out what's the right stuff can often be difficult. Really interesting points there. So I think just to make sure that we have enough time on each question. So sorry to cut anybody off, but we'll just move forward to the next section. I think, again, we've got some more stats for you guys and some more information we can share. We will share these slides with you all at the end, so you will get to go through these and you'll all get a recording of the meeting as well. So if we just, there we go. So when we look at, and what we've been talking about and touched on there briefly is in relation to how we engage in the use of technology and the data, etc. So, you know, what we're seeing here is huge increases in the amount of technology that businesses are using, not just to interact and engage. We have some, you know, not to push names, HelloDoc and these types of businesses in Indonesia, and there are numerous other ones in other countries that allow medicine to be delivered to your door, to facilitate online discussions with doctors, to be able to, you know, fix issues or get get prescriptions for medicine that could take you hours and hours stuck in traffic to get, and has undoubtedly saved lives during the pandemic. So we're seeing large numbers of increase in the use of these types of technology. And we're actually seeing that physicians are forecasting more and more that more and more of their initial meetings, sometimes up to 25% of those over the next year or two, will be done virtually. You know, whether or not this is good, will things be missed that aren't done in person, or does it give more and more people access to good healthcare quickly? You know, this is something that will be discussed today. What we're also seeing is travel restrictions. So countries like, especially Bangkok, that has a lot of medical tourism, you know, Philippines, Indonesia is starting to grow this with the talks of new hospitals, etc. in Bali to create a medical tourism industry. We've seen that slowed down. So those organizations have had to make shifts towards a much more data-driven approach. You know, how can they engage their customers better, and how can they still attract business to keep those companies running? Well, you know, these are all important points, and that takes us on to our next question. So how has your business adapted to the growing digital technology adoption in healthcare? So how has your business adopted to the growing digital technology adoption in healthcare? So I'll open this up to the panel. Who'd like to jump in first on that question?
I maybe would like to start the discussion. Yes. As you know, our customer base is mainly healthcare professional, doctor, nurse. Yeah. So of course, with the way they work now is also changing, like what Anjie just mentioned before. Yeah. We also need to adapt with the customers' way of life. So the technology is coming. So we go with the new technology where we can interface with the doctor who now can work from everywhere, but they still can monitor with the patient, because most of the time patient and doctors, they used to be interactive or deeply interactive, but now since they have some barriers, yeah. So this technology will provide more visibility so that they can access the what condition of the patient in everywhere. So this is something that I believe that it will be more and more technologies driven, yeah. And of course, from the industry like us, the company like us, we also need to be more digitalized, yeah, with the marketing digital, how we can support the doctors through the media, social media, or like say like a short video, or digitalize all information about the product and then share with them more easier. I think that's from my side.
Thanks, Djalu. Yeah, agreed. And I think what we see, and anybody who's seen healthcare professionals will know that you don't have a huge amount of time with those healthcare professionals as well. It's quite limited in terms of the amount of time they get to make those diagnoses and to prescribe something to you. And this use of technology and especially AI to be able to look at scans, to read scans and see things that rushed doctors may miss, I think has been something that I read about recently as well, which is, really revolutionizing, how we can prescribe medicine, how we can look at data, how we can look at scans and find the smallest of little details, that could be missed by the human eye. But fully agree with everything you said. Great points. Anybody else would like to come in on question number 2?
Sure. Okay, me again. Because of that, the situation changed. So from our company, we also changed the new ways of working, and it reflected a lot in our operation activities. For example, the technology and the digital, something we apply from in general, and I just told you we apply from the way we interact with the customer. So we interact with them in the past, like face-to-face, and now we use more the machine, more the AI curve. We already identify with the channel should be the good for communication. So in the past we use a lot and multi-channel like SMS, right, emails or webinar, but now mainly we move and face-to-face, but now mainly we move more to virtual meeting is the first thing. And the second things after that, we also think that in the past, maybe one doctor, let's say, they can meet the med rep, they can meet the medical person and different information for them. And maybe they met the med rep from different company, like maybe MSD, AstraZeneca or Novartis, but in the end, and they maybe conflict time. But that's why the pharma industry, they already established a new app named Engage Connect. So in the next coming time, you can see that's a platform for a lot of pharma we join together. And then on that is a two-way. That means one-stop shop, like two-way for communication between the customer, in this case, like the healthcare providers, the doctors, and then the person from pharmaceutical company. So we can send different messages from different channel. We also can set up the meeting with them, and they again normally just one side, right? And now they also can set up the meeting from their side and send to us, send our people. They can receive that and can send the message and set up also the video call or the voice call together, and show up the schedule the one doctor, so no conflict in this case. And something like also consistency, the information between different functions in the company, for example, marketing, sales, and medical. So it's the one thing we change. The other thing we change here, we also impact to the R&D development, the new drugs and vaccine. So we use the technologies and we can have a faster the process to develop one new drugs and vaccine. You can see that's amazing or unbelievable, right? The vaccine COVID just take around 2 years, and we have nearly 2 years, and we have a new vaccine. And in the past, normally this process R&D takes 10 years to 15 years started from the lab to the market when you can buy the drugs. And now we reduce that gap, and we can use also the AI to predict. Let's have the next step and the result, the assumption, the result, use a different model. So that can help us to save a lot of costs and go faster to for the drug development and vaccine development. So it's also something like impact to us. And we also use more the initially health app when we work with the hospital. So we also have the app just maybe focus on oncology, let's say the oncology treatment. And from that, also for the antibacterial, the infectious disease. So the doctor have a more small source, and they can access different place. This is installed in the mobile, and they can access different. And also they can see maybe the antibacterial, the resistance is a platform in the hospital or in the different hospital in different country. So you can see that, oh, maybe this treatment pathway is not really right, and they suggest another treatment pathway is better and more adaptable and customized for the specific patient. So in this case, like we can see that is a more efficient and more productive in the ways of working. Of course, besides of that, we also engage more compliant and legal and regulatory, because we also need to base on the local regulation, if any, if any local regulation from the country to protect the privacy of the person who they connect with the app, and also even the patient or the healthcare, there has to be the healthcare provider. So from ourselves, from my side, we can see that, and we moving more and more, use more the technology and the IE in the way we're working, and the face-to-face more to become virtual meeting, or we can hybrid. Yeah, thank you.
It sounds like you're going to have to have a degree in technology to work in the healthcare sector in the future. It sounds like you're using technology for absolutely everything every day. It's fascinating.
Maybe we will be what we will do next time.
Yeah, and that you know, already talking about how blockchain technology can be integrated to look at, you know, tracking medicine, for medical records, for, you know, lots of different things within that space as well. So these, you know, really modern technologies, you know, potentially can be integrated as well. Yeah, very interesting. Thanks a lot for that, Anne.
If I may, James, if I may speak on the local scale, you know, the Philippines probably holds the record for the longest and strictest lockdown in this whole pandemic, right? It's only March this year that we actually started to open up the economy. So that's a full 2 years. And that has forced the healthcare industry here in the country to become sort of experts already on, you know, omni-channel and multi-channel engagement, you know, in terms of webinars, remote detailing, use of apps like Viber, for instance. But there also still remains a challenge because majority of the doctors here, the physicians, still prefer face-to-face, right? But the companies who are able to who are agile enough to adjust between face-to-face and remote detailing, I think, are the ones who's going to succeed moving forward, not just here, but across the globe. In terms of global, talking about our global ambition, you know, Sanofi aims to become a digital healthcare company. In fact, our chief digital officer just barely almost a week ago just announced a digital accelerator initiative. And in a nutshell, what this means is we're going to gather, in fact, we've gathered 75 digital experts already in our head office in Paris. And their aim is to come up with solutions and platforms based on digital data and artificial intelligence. And the objective is to ensure that there will be better outcomes for patients, right, moving forward. And the vision here is to reach up to 300 experts worldwide. So that's how serious our company is in terms of going through the digital revolution as we speak. I think this will also be good in terms of whatever, assuming the pandemic still, you know, cases go up in other countries again, the company is going to be ready for that. And finally, we've already piloted about in 18 countries a CRM, digital app on in terms of engaging with doctors. I'm pretty sure soon it's going to come over to our country as well. So really, I think the train has left the station, so to speak, and there's no way to go but digital, at least for our company, and I think in the healthcare industry in general as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah, I think we've seen this, you know, over the last kind of 5 or more years in the consumer sector as well. That move towards digitization of businesses, and more companies going online, e-commerce, and it seems to be now moving into other areas as well. So trialing, you know, across 18 countries is a big project, very big. So, you know, to see businesses going in that type of scale, talking to that number of experts is, you know, the train is very, very far away from the station, I would say. It's fantastic to see that amount of growth in you know, a relatively short period of time for the healthcare sector. Seems to be moving much faster than it did in the consumer sector. Thank you very much for that, Ian. Anybody else like to jump in on question number 2? No? If not, let's move forward on to the next slide, please, Nabila. So what we're looking at here is looking at adaptability, looking at, how we attract talent, looking at how this has affected businesses' ability to be able to hire, internal mobility, virtual recruiting as opposed to in-person recruiting. And you can see some of the stats here. I think when we look at adaptability, this is something that 55% of Asia's talent say adaptability is a very important skill. Numbers could be much higher than that, but I think a lot of businesses, from how we recruit into healthcare all the way through to the healthcare businesses themselves, have had to adapt very, very quickly in the past few years. Even within our business, within Empresario, we saw pharmaceutical strategies, one of our relatively small healthcare recruitment businesses in America, go from being a relatively small company making double-digit placements per year to making double-digit, triple-digit placements per month. And it became the biggest business within our portfolio in Asia Pacific very, very quickly due to the increase in demand for nurses. So that adaptability really, showed with that. And we're seeing a lot of positions within healthcare where people would decline jobs as well, and healthcare and other sectors also, where they don't have that focus on health and wellness, where they don't have the focus on COVID safety, and where they don't have flexible working environments as well. That ability to be able to work from home, work from the office, especially with family, especially with traffic, etc., has been something that has moved into the top 5 in terms of why people change their job. Number 1, number 2, still money, still career progression, but flexibility, health and wellness are now moving up into the top 5 or top 6 of the key things that we're seeing from candidates wanting from their employers. And I think in terms of diversity as well, diversity of the professionals we're bringing in, and how we engage those talents, as we mentioned earlier. A lot of people are joining businesses where they haven't actually met someone. You've only seen this much of them on a screen. Is it a good way to hire people? Are there better ways to do it? Will the technology move forward to make this better for us? Well, there's no hiding from this now. It is one of the best ways to be able to hire people. And if companies want to grow, they're going to have to adapt to the new normal in terms of how we do that. So hopefully some of those stats are useful for you guys. Again, we will share these with you, so you've got this information after the meeting. But we'll move through now to the final question number 3. So are we seeing demand for new skills? And how is your business attracting and retaining talent in this candidate short market? So what we're looking at here is, are we seeing demand for new skills brought on by the new normal? And how is your business going about attracting, not just attracting them to your business, but also retaining those talents as well, with a lot of competition in a very talent short market? So I'll hand over to the panel. Who'd like to take that question?
Maybe I would like to jump to this question. Yes, James. So today, especially in our industry, in healthcare or medical device, we have quite a lot of demand. Yeah. So the competition was there, and the specific qualifications very, very limited in Indonesia. So of course, the first step, we have to maintain our own resource, yeah. But meanwhile, we need to find new talents out external. So one of the key things that I found during the pandemic appears that people now, especially for the younger people, they really are looking for what is the value of your company. Yeah. So when we present to them about this is our value, that in Dräger Indonesia we have what we call is a technology for life or saving life. it's really one of the things that they find that, oh, it's some things that I would like to join. I mean, interesting for them, yeah, because we are not talking about the money, but it's more value than the money. That's one thing that I found today, especially in Indonesia for the younger generations. And the flexible of working, also one thing that they really expect, that when you are with the new development of technology, they're really looking the flexibility of working from everywhere. Now it's become the demand in fact. Yeah, so it's not working from home, it's not working from office, but it's working from everywhere. So those things, two things, I believe is something that now the talent is expecting from the market.
This is why I'm based in Bali, not Jakarta. Yeah, it's a different way of working, but I think it brings up some very good points, that it also, you are quite detached from your business if you're a long way away. Meeting the team, building team spirit, building culture becomes much, much more difficult. And I mean, is that something you see as well, Djalu, in terms of how you try and get people working together, team events, company events, that you have to take a different approach to that now? Yes, and of course, we also, so the office itself, the function of the office itself, it becomes changing. So it's not like you as a regular place to visit or to go to work, but it's more like you have an interact with your employees. Yeah. So you change the place, your office, as you have a meeting there when you need to have a meeting, or you meet the customer. So for Indonesia Drägers, we changed our office more we have a showroom case where we gather the customer coming, yeah, rather than, so we put a small space for our office, yeah, and we get more bigger for our customer area, so we can have a more training to the customer, more showroom, or educate the external party coming. So office space is also different, but we are still interact with our employee. Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Djalu. Anjie, you look like you're ready to talk.
Yes, I'm ready to jump in. Okay, so in terms of attracting and retaining talent, for us, we broke it down into two parts. One is the talent we had to retain, and it was about the old talent learning new skills. And then in terms of the new talent, how we were going to bring them into a business where there was a lot of personal interaction with the client. We sell a very high price product service. And in terms of that confidence and in terms of making that sale, it was normally done face to face. Obviously, we had to retrain the skills of our top salespeople. So where they were able to do face-to-face sales, it was a question of how do you do it through a screen? How do you establish that trust? Luckily, we had a couple of people who were excellent in terms of their skills in this area, who worked in our telesales and CRM areas. So we basically created new heroes in our system to help the other people in the sales team. The other thing that we did, which not only helped us retain, but helped us to attract new clients, is that new employees, is that we totally changed the way in which we connected with our employees. In the past, we used to have monthly meetings where you actually had almost every department in the organization come in and be a part of the meeting with the sales team who were out there nationwide trying to promote our services. And what we did was that we took that online, but then we started connecting with people who were further away from us, maybe on a weekly basis, on a bi-weekly basis. And it wasn't only about connecting to check on how the business was going, but it was a question of how they were doing. And the healthcare system in Thailand, unfortunately, did not do such a great job in taking care of people who were affected by COVID. So since we do have nurses and we do have scientists on team, we actually went to the point where we were preparing care packs. If somebody was right away detected with COVID, all the supplements, all the medications, all the suggestions in terms of how to take care of themselves, finding a bed, we took that upon us to help our employees. And we were doing that for some of our clients too, because there was such a shortage here. So it gave the employees a very different comfort in terms of being with us. And we started to introduce wellness into the organization. And I become involved in an initiative that has been started here in Thailand, which is called the Wellness Corporate Nation Building Program, which is taking wellness into organizations. In countries in this part of the world, it's still a very new concept. So allowing them to understand how you take wellness in and how it actually gives you better employees and actually a better bottom line. So with these initiatives, we're not only retaining, we're attracting new talent. And the other part is that where we had to have personal interaction with our clients, we basically started to develop talent within the medical facilities that we used to be able to visit. So doctors' offices and hospitals, there were their staff who we were training on our product, on our services, so they could give the knowledge to the patients. And this was done with collaborations with the hospitals and clinics so that we had another voice to talk about our business for us. So that reduced the stress levels in terms of our business, in terms of the bottom line. Luckily, we did very well. We actually had growth in 2020 and 2021. And on the other side, we were able to show our employees, especially the sales force, how business could be done differently. In terms of the back offices, in terms of operations, lots of new ways to work. So we were giving them new tools. We invested in new tools. And most importantly, last and not the least, is that we used this time as a time to look inward, to improve our overall systems and see how we could support our people. So they could see how we were looking for ways to improve the business and improve their quality of life at the same time.
Thanks, Anjie. And when you're engaging talent out there in the market, are you going through quite traditional routes, or are you using different types of social media or any different types of new approaches to attract them to your company, whether it's by promoting the new training that you do or the health and wellness that your company offers or flexibility? Do you find there's ways that help to attract certain demographics better than others?
To be honest with you, I think that as a company, we do have a reputation in terms of taking care of our people, in terms of the ethical bar and the way we've been operating has given us a very good reputation out there in the market, at least in this business. In terms of attracting, we are putting it out there, but the people we required in our industry is very, very specific, very specialized. And there are only 3 or 4 companies in the entire country that are engaged in this business. So the talent pool is very limited. And the information flows, who's doing what, how they're taking care of your people. So the word of mouth has actually been also very important for us, in addition to what we're putting out there through the recruitment agencies, the online recruitment that we're doing, and a lot of the referrals that we're getting from people that this may be somebody who's suitable for your system. Yeah,
that's very true. And, candidates or employees who are unhappy take to social media quite quickly. Exactly. And news spreads much, much quicker than it used to these days. Yes. So yeah, making sure that the social media side of things, Glassdoor reviews, everything across the board, all starts with a better candidate experience through the interview process and then onboarding, offboarding, all parts of that process. And yeah, all very good points. Things that we see with our clients as well, and things that we've experienced internally, is that training material that we've used, in one way or another over the last decade, we've been in Indonesia for about 17 years now, has all changed. And exactly the points that you mentioned, well, how do you sell online? How do you engage in different ways? And there are good voices out there. I think Tony Robbins, Simon Sinek, there are lots of people who talk about these types of techniques, but certainly the juniors and the young people coming to our business learning those skills, they seem to really enjoy that. And something that we've really noticed as well is that a lot of our employees now really enjoy recognition, at each stage of that process, and, getting recognized, even if it's for smaller things, it adds to that gamification of the process where you can level up, and it's more engaging and more fun for them through that journey. But thanks for that, Anjie. Yeah, fantastic points. Anne, I can see you're off mute. Looks like you're ready to talk.
Yeah, because this topic is so interesting. So I little bit want to jump in the conversation, because like in MSD, we also talk about this a lot. And okay, why we have to do that, and what and how we do that to recruit, to retain the talent and the workforce. So in general, we have the global strategic framework for diversity, inclusion, and equity. So we have a DNIs, the strategic here, because we based on like we have a different customer centrics. So that's why we want to build up our workforce, something they also have a diversify, and to diversify. Yes, so we ensure that. And it's not enough, but also we need to do something how to make them feel like they belong to the company. They have a good environment here for they respect. They have a chance to develop themselves and grow up more in their career later. And that's why somehow like we leverage a lot of the activity linked to the DNI in the environment and the company, from global to the local team. Besides that, we also develop a lot of another strategic framework like for the new ways of working. So besides of that, like how we make the team feel like they are just they have one voice, one team, and they can have based on that they can open to speak up, because they can speak up about their and something, give the feedback to the team, to the company, organization, for the betters. So I think in this we are ongoing to do that and apply more the DNI in our activity. Besides of that, something for the retain talent, especially after COVID, the company also apply the hybrid. We have hybrid working. So it means that after the COVID, the people, after they stay a long time at home, right? Now they feel like, oh, I also want to come to office to see my colleagues, but otherwise, sometimes I also have a flexible working time. And the company also give something, the policy, the flexible working policy for the staff. And we of course we have KPI and a lot of things to help the supervisor and the staff to implement that. However, it's also one of the way we apply here for the DNI and for the way of working, new way of working in our strategy. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks, Anne. So what we'll do now is just move on to the last part now, and we'll get some questions out. We've got a few questions coming in, so should take about 5 minutes or so. So if we just move on to the next slide, please, Nabila. Okay, fantastic. So I'll read out some of the questions to you. Thank you very much to all the panelists for your answers and contributions so far. So we've got a few questions coming in here, one from the Philippines. So question number one from Leanne Marie, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. How can we make our job posts more attractive across different generations? So looking at millennials, Gen Z, etc. So how can we make our job posts more attractive for different generations? So across millennials, Gen Z, etc. Anyone have an answer for that?
I can take that, James.
Thanks, Ian.
This was supposed to be my answer to the third question, but I think it's related to this question anyhow. I think apart from just doing the usual job posting, if you're an HR, for instance, and if you have a very attractive engagements or policies in the company. Let's say, for example, I'll give an example, very clear example. In our company, our leadership team decided that there will be no meetings on Friday afternoons. We call it no meeting Fridays, right? We only limit Zoom meetings to 30 minutes maximum. And we encourage hybrid work. I think hybrid work, for example, is very, very attractive to especially the new generation, right? Even millennials, even Gen Xers like myself. Post about your company activities, how you're managing self-care for your employees. And for example, if you do that on LinkedIn, people will get easily attracted to your company, right? So it's not just the formal job postings. Post and talk about what is it like working in your company. How is your flexibility in terms of giving your employees a chance to work anywhere they can, if you have that. Something different that other companies may not be doing right now. So I think that's the best way to do it. Actual examples, actual pictures, actual posts.
Fantastic. Hopefully that answered your question, Leanne. I'll just move through. Would anyone else like to jump in on that question? Any burning points to add, or we can move on to the next question?
Just to add a little bit for what Ian just said. Today, we also encourage our employee to post more on the activity of the company's activities, in their social media, specifically to LinkedIn, because they are more in the professional, but not only for the activities of the products or sector, but more in the activities of the company. What happens in the company, our working environments. So it's really give a lot of insight for the new talent external, especially for the young generation, where they really would like to see something like that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Djalu. Question number 2 we've got coming from Pauline Marananan. Any tips or techniques you can share on how we can make our talent mapping more accurate or more effective? So this is looking at mapping out talent in the market. How can you make that more effective or more accurate? Any thoughts on this panel? No answers for you, I'm afraid, Pauline.
If I may try to quickly answer that, one of the best ways we're getting talent right now is through employee referrals. Someone who knows the culture, someone who knows the needs, and we've got a very high success rate in that. So that's a short answer I could give. I hope that helps. Do
you offer money to those employees to the referrals, and is it a very appealing amount of money?
It's more than the money. Sometimes I remember we did offer money, but sometimes something in kind help works better, right?
Yeah.
Days off.
We apply the same as Ian said, like reference, and have a bonus for that.
So building internal talent communities where you get referrals, you get incentives, or sometimes money, sometimes in kind for referring people, to build less of a reliance purely on recruitment companies or applicants, and using the knowledge that you've already got within your business. Seems like a good answer to your question there, Pauline. Hopefully that's answered that for you.
I just want to add also, James.
Yeah.
Instead of a referral, of course, building relations with your headhunters or the company in the recruitments, supporting your recruitment is very important, because we need to build. That's why I'm not really having. I'm trying to have a very specific headhunters to support me for certain position, because each of headhunter, they have a specialty. So because when you have a close interaction with them, they know your industry, then they can help support you better. Yeah. So that's something that I think is also important to get the talent mapping more accurate or effective.
And then if I could jump in on that as well, purely from our business perspective, exactly what you said, Djalu, is the relationships you have with your recruiters. you know, as a business, individual business, the opportunities that you have to go talent map are somewhat limited and single-sighted, whereas as an agency or a recruitment specialist, we have people from all sorts of backgrounds coming to us because it gives them a broader spread. And that's, you know, just to blow our trumpet a little bit, talent mapping is something that we at Monroe and the Prachaseri group do extremely well.
This is the question to the panel, Kitty.
No, so this was the answer to the question from the lady before.
Oh, that was the end of your point. Sorry, I thought you asked a question at the end there. I didn't catch that. No. We're coming up to the end of our time now, but I've got another good question that's just come in. So I'll just ask one more question if you don't mind, panel, unless you need to jump out quickly, just a couple more minutes. So there's a number of questions that have come in. So apologies if we don't get to ask your question, but we do, you know, suggest that you do reach out to these people. We will share the slides afterwards. And of course, you'll be able to engage with us and you'll be able to connect via LinkedIn with any of the panelists today. So if you've got any further questions to ask, please do. But one of the questions that come in mentions that all of the panelists here have mentioned about the changing consumer behavior with the recent pandemic, and the healthcare industry has adjusted to that. So there has been a big shift in one direction. Do you think that this could also reverse and go back to normal? Maybe consumers being more relaxed, less concerned about health, etc., as the pandemic clears up and we move back towards, you know, perhaps, you know, what we are used to experiencing. Do you think this trend could be reversed?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Please go ahead, I'll follow.
Yeah, I personally think it will not go back exactly to where it was 2 years ago. It's just because 2 years has been such a long time for new behaviors to, you know, be imbibed in people. Perhaps it will not be as, you know, high at the height, like at the height of the pandemic, but somewhere in between, somewhere at the height and in the middle of being there pre-pandemic. So somewhere in the middle. People have become more conscious about their health. They've become more focused on self-care, preventive, been taking more preventive vitamins and supplements. So I think in general, it's helped, you know, improve that sort of behavior for everybody.
So you think that pendulum will swing back, but not all the way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ian. Anjie?
Okay, I look at it as looking at the different age groups. Those who are probably 50 or older would love to swing back to the old ways because that's what they're used to, where the comfort is, their adjustment to technology, and you know, being away from their doctor physically, not having that face-to-face and interaction is causing a lot more discomfort in more aging patients, especially because of their health conditions. So I think they face most of the brunt of the problems where they have not had access to regular, consistent medical care. In the younger groups, 35 to 50, I think it could go either way. They would probably feel comfortable in accessing technology and spending less time with their health and having to be present, taking advantage of what suits them, and being able to have access when they feel they need it. With the youngsters, I think they are so used to this approach of using technology in every aspect of their life that I think they would be more comfortable sticking to this mode. Although, in my opinion, AI technology has its pitfalls and the effects that could be faced with their health as a result of this discomfort in terms of the behavior. That's concerning to me.
Thanks, Anjie. So we're about 5 minutes over now. So I know a lot of people out there are ready for their lunch and to get food. So we will share questions, etc., with you guys. We will share all of the information. But I just wanted to say a big thank you to our panel, Anne, Djalu, Ian, Anjie, amazing input, great insight. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us today. Thank you very much for Kitty to helping get this arranged and inviting everyone along and really being the driving force behind this. And Nabila, thank you very much for all your input on creating the slides, marketing, and getting this information out there. And that's it for today. So I think the final slide says a big thank you to everybody out there. Thank you for coming. You can see Kitty's contact information here and a link to our website. So please feel free to get in touch. If you're unable to add any of our professionals today on LinkedIn, please reach out to Kitty and she'll be able to share their LinkedIn information with you so you can get in touch with them. But that's it. I really appreciate your time, everybody. And I hope this has taught everybody a little bit about health, wellness, how things are improving and the future of digital healthcare here in Southeast Asia